getting found is a huge part of digital marketing. And there's an expression talking about, a billboard in a desert. And is your site the proverbial billboard in a desert? When people think about SEO, they generally jump right to the technology, even if they're not a technologist. I was speaking with somebody the other day, and they asked me, without telling me what they were trying to achieve, they said, can we put a meta tag on something? And we need to rewind that process and start at what is the business goal of, holistically, our organization? What are we trying to achieve? From that, where do we get our qualified traffic? Let's go ahead then and research those areas that we get the qualified traffic, and let's start to break things down into different personas that engage with us through those channels. What types of individuals? What are their problems or needs? And ultimately, what are they searching for? Once we have this foundation, then we can get started with optimization. SEO is truly a 1.0 type of web. The term SEO carries a lot of baggage with it and was kind of born early on with the internet. People could do things physically to manipulate their sites to rank better and score better, and it was something that people largely abused early on with the web. For a number of reasons that we'll talk about in the upcoming slides, things have changed. And really, when we think about search engine optimization, we should really be thinking about inbound marketing. So if SEO is Web 1.0, inbound marketing is Web 3.0. HubSpot is a massive proponent of inbound marketing. And they've got a lot of great information on their site. I highly recommend people look at a lot of their free ebooks. It is extremely helpful information with a lot of research. But when you think about their statistic that 88% more leads per month are created by companies that blog, that says it all with regard to inbound marketing and content creation. This underscores how critical it is for companies to produce great content online in order to be found. It's no longer about optimizing your page. Technically, it's about creating great content, and the companies that do it have a huge advantage over those who do not. I'm going to save everybody here a ton of money, as I know we were all trying to, at the same time, go sign up to get our MIT PhDs. I'm going to explain Google. The whole point of Google is because others say so, not you. And the reason that we say this is that when people were talking about meta tags, or what if I move this to point A to point B on my web page, Google is very smart. They realize that people can manipulate things. And so if we think about our fictional example here, I'm running mymonkey.com. If monkeynews.com places a link on their site to my site and writes up a review or puts me within an article, that gives my site value. That's the fundamental way that Google works. Now let's get into the weeds. People are always asking about what they can do within their pages to rank better in Google. Now, it definitely is possible to rank well without a lot of people linking to you, but at a very high level of magnitude, it's fair to say that inbound links to your page, so for instance our Monkey News example, that is far more powerful than a lot of things that you can do on your site. And so on the left-hand side, we have a table that just shows some examples of things that do and can influence search rank. But on the right-hand side, that is truly the power that will indicate where you rank on search. So, for every person that I hear that says, John, should I, it's $100 to get this Google Boost package from some random hosting provider there, it really grinds my gears. Because Google, let's say there's somebody who's really, really smart. If they think they're 2 steps ahead of Google, Google is 10 steps ahead. The reason is that this is Google's business. If Google fails to provide high quality search results, Google's core business is very damaged. And so for people that think for $100 they can somehow algorithmically outscore others within the search engine, it's just not going to happen. So if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. But pro tip, it's not going to happen. One of the great places to go to look at common SEO myths and the realities behind SEO is Matt Cutts from Google and his whole Google Webmaster Help series. And so here are just a couple things as technologists that might be new that we haven't heard. Description meta tag. It actually can show within the search results page, but it's not really a determining factor of how your page ranks in that list. Meta keywords, not used in ranking at all. If we look at the rel author markup, this is interesting. If you've seen search results over the last maybe year, you'll see people's photos popping up next to particular search results. That's done by way of a markup tag rel author within your page. But Google got smart because Google realized that people who are technically savvy might utilize that more than others. And so what Google did is they now algorithmically determine if it's important to show the photo within a given set of search results. So again, Google is smart because they want to keep it high quality where people are finding the things that they're trying to locate. The last item here is just around social and authority. It's a big question. Does social somehow influence search? The answer now is absolutely yes. So as far back as 2010, Google started using Twitter to help in some of its ranking. Couple key terms that we need to know around search. SERPs. That's nothing more than the results set that you get back anytime you run a search. That's the search engine result pages. Organic and natural traffic, those are things besides paid search. So if you think about Google, anything besides AdWords. And when you're looking at organic traffic, you're going to get about 4 times higher click-through rate. Paid search, I think we're all familiar with that around AdWords. Keywords, really thinking about when we're authoring content, what are we doing within the body of our content to make sure that we're mentioning things that connect with people's needs who might want to look at the information that we're producing. The last being referral traffic. So what type of inbound links do we have coming into our site? Where are those people coming from? Diving down a bit further, let's look at paid search. Cost per click. Whenever you're working with something like Google AdWords, you basically have a marketplace where you can go and indicate how much you are willing to pay for certain types of search terms within AdWords. And at the end of the day, for everybody that clicks through on your ad, you pay a certain amount. That's your cost per click. Click-through rate is very different. Anytime any of us do a search, we get back a series of results. If your listing is shown in those results, that's an impression. Only a small percentage of those impressions actually get clicked through. Retargeting. If you've ever been on, let's say, Amazon.com and looked at a particular camera and then browsed around through a bunch of different websites, you might notice that you see camera ads starting to target you. That's done by way of something called retargeting. So there are marketplaces for real-time ad bidding where companies trying to sell their goods and services are able to try to take advantage of the history that somebody knows about you and your browsing pattern. Response attribution, similar to referrals. So if my site got, if somebody clicked over to my site through a banner or a particular paid search, that's a response attribution. And the last one being what's commonly called a landing page, but also called a jump page, where sometimes if I'm running a paid search campaign, I think I have a very good idea of what that person is searching for, what product or service they're looking for. I might want to set up very specific pages optimized to help convert them to a lead. So I might have a webinar sign up form. I might have product purchase, buttons. These pages are set up for very specific purposes. A little bit more on impressions and click-through. So as somebody executes a search, they're presented with a page like what we have in the upper right-hand corner here. And what's interesting is that if we look at the analysis, this kind of pre-click-through, we can see where people are actually focused within the page. If you don't show up toward the top, needless to say, your click-through rate is going to drop drastically. Now, along those same lines, in the SERPs, we're starting to have social proof. So when you execute a search, you'll see if the person has identified their profile with their particular search result. You'll see how many followers they have on G+. How many times was it shared on G+? You'll see their profile. This definitely provides an advantage. If I see somebody with 1,000 G+ followers that wrote an article and then 2 other articles that are anonymous, I'm always going to pick the one that has more context around it. In addition to that, you can even see the person's followers. So I might see profile pictures for a series of their followers who are maybe somehow related to me. So the SERP listing optimization takes into account a couple of the factors that we've talked about here, and a great video that details it is using search queries to improve your site. I highly recommend taking a look at it, because it's one thing to just show up in a results page, but it's another to start to optimize how you're visually showing within that result set and what you can do for better click-through. So web pages have really moved from the old days of a static pure HTML page to different engines that have capabilities around better understanding that individual and then tailoring the experience for that individual. In addition to that, sometimes we also want to do actual experiments with different parts of content and pages to ultimately see what we can do with our conversion rates. How powerful is context? I found this example that is not technical, but an awesome example that highlights just how important context is. If you've ever been at a hotel, you might have seen a sign recently that said, "For all the towels that you would like washed, put them on the floor. Otherwise, if you hang them, we'll recycle them." What hotels have started doing is to give some social proof. They say, 80% of other guests who reuse their towels. And what's interesting is that some people took it a step further and said 80% of the people that stayed in your hotel room have reused their towels. And that had a dramatic uplift in the number of people that would just reuse their towels. So it's the same fundamental message, but it's tailored much more so to that individual. So the more localized and personalized the source of information, the more that it can be used to move people in a particular direction. This is a great article all about influence in Harvard Business Review that's linked at the bottom. So what is that? How does that kind of equate to the web end of things? We have 2 different areas of information that we can leverage to help provide a better user experience. One is explicit information about a particular user. So do we know things about their profile, those traditional demographics, age, gender, income? Have they brought particular products or services from us in the past? Here's a great example thinking about Amazon.com. They have rich history about you and what you've done with their organization, and they absolutely use it to tailor a better experience. The second half to that is all around implicit behavior. What website was the person at before they clicked over to your site? Once they were at your site, what items, products, articles, etc. did they look at? Are they coming from a particular geography? And lastly, are you maybe as a user who's browsing the site connected to other people that also browse the site where those relationships can be understood? So these are just some examples, but explicit and implicit types of aspects of a user are critical to helping better engage with that user. Now, if we think about what this equates to and how people view this as users, Zogby did a very interesting study and found that 41% of people prefer ads targeted to their interests. That's fascinating. That's a very high percentage that say, you know what, it's okay to target information to me. And 16% of people preferred random ads, so kind of just only give me ads that are not related to me as an individual. This is very telling, and I think that I was watching TV the other day, and one of my favorite shows, a commercial break came up, and I looked over toward my wife and I said, wow, I wish that I could see advertisements that I was interested in. It would make it so much more engaging to sit down and watch. So overall, again, we have some technical levers that we can use here to help us arrive at better segmentation, and there are definitely results to be had. A/B testing is an area that you may or may not have heard a lot about, but A/B testing absolutely works. If you think back to the days of the static web, you had one page and everybody viewed that one page, and if somebody signed up, that's great. If they didn't, they didn't. And that's about all you could tell and understand. When we think about different types of experiments that we can run, they fundamentally fall into two camps. One is the A/B testing that we spoke about, and that allows you to have multiple versions of a page with some pretty significant changes. Now, the beauty of this is that without a lot of traffic, you can start to get a sense of which version of a page is better. And to our last slide, the Obama campaign used a tremendous amount of A/B testing to hone in on what was really the most effective to drum up donations and other types of support. Multivariate testing, on the other hand, changes a number of aspects of the same page. Now, the benefits, you can do things maybe a little bit more finely tuned, but the drawback is that it takes a very large sample size to arrive at what's considered statistically significant proof that a particular method is better than another. The CEO of Optimizely here, Dan Siroker, does a great job in explaining the impacts of A/B testing. So he's at the Next Web conference and talked a lot about the genesis of Optimizely and its impact on the work that he and his team did around the Obama campaign. It's a great watch. I highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more about A/B testing. So A/B testing and multivariate inherently are part of the visual presentation of a page. Those are aspects of how we're driving that user experience. And there are a couple key terms that are really must-knows. One is the call to action. The call to action here on this sample page is, are you in? And if we think about A/B testing, we could have two pages where we maybe change the color and or the text of that text, are you in? This is a critical factor in any type of conversion that we're working with. Above the fold, if people are, let's say, if they run a Google search and maybe pop open a couple different sites in different browser tabs, they might never get a chance to scroll down the page to make sure that they see all of the information. So it's really critical, given the short time spans that people have, to keep key elements of a page above the fold. That means shown on the page without the user having to scroll. We already talked about the landing page, but here in this instance it takes even more significance as we start talking about calls to action and correlating things to very specific results around conversion. Lastly, microsite. Now, microsites, it's more than just a landing page, but they're meant to be small and set up for a very narrow purpose. Again, the interest here is in really helping people to convert to whatever it might be. If somebody launches a new product line, they might want a very streamlined user experience that just focuses on that particular product, with the hopes that the users browsing it sign up for a webinar or purchase the product. As people visit sites, loyalty is a key element of how organizations can better engage with those individuals. So loyalty does a number of things, or cannot do a number of things depending on how people approach it, but really it gives organizations the ability to generate extra revenue and look at different mechanisms and incentives for helping to build and measure loyalty. A great example of this is TOSCANINI'S in Cambridge, Massachusetts. TOSCANINI'S is a boutique, high-quality ice cream store. And they are always innovating and looking for better ways to connect and cater to their customers. One of the most interesting things I think personally is that they realize that they have a diverse customer base and even change ingredients within their recipes to create some culturally targeted recipes. What they've started doing is looking at, for the visitors that come into the store and use their wireless connection, they use Facebook authentication or just general social authentication and are able to get a sense by virtue of looking at those social profiles what those people are interested in, what do they like. And the beauty of this is that if you learn what your customers like and are interested in, you can tailor your experience to them. So thinking about something as simple as what music should we play in the store? What do people enjoy? And if we look here, it's the Beatles, Coldplay, Adele, Radiohead. If we look at things like food and beverage, Nutella. Do we maybe want to do a flavor of ice cream that's focused around Nutella? So it gives us some really neat insights to make things better for our customers. In this case, this is what TOSCANINI is looking at doing. So whenever companies try to tailor that experience, they're ultimately looking at the lifetime value of a customer. If we have somebody that continues to come in and potentially comes in even more frequently, bringing incremental revenue, those are two key metrics that we can use to measure the loyalty that we're building. Social is a huge, commonly talked about area and definitely is a key part of digital marketing. Let's start by talking about social proof. So as we think about the Clue Train Manifesto and brands publishing out to their potential target audiences, it's really that world of that advertisement and a brand saying what they want to say. Well, what's better than that? What's better than that is somebody like the New York Times doing a write-up and saying the brand is a pretty good brand. And what's better than that? It's somebody like Yelp with a number of different reviews saying, best place ever, French toast is awesome, and then your friend on Facebook saying, I just had great French toast at this amazing restaurant. So anytime that we're looking at the social web, there's real value there in a number of ways. Social proof is just one of them. Now, these numbers are a little bit misleading, I think. But what they say is that social media generates 2 times the amount of leads that trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or pay-per-click do. And I think here the key takeaway is, okay, it is more effective, but I want to know why. And what I would propose is that because social media inherently has some context to it, meaning that I'm seeing things through social media because my friends engaged with them. And if my friend engaged with it, that is some level of social proof. And if I'm interested in it, I'm probably going to follow up on my friend's recommendation. So these numbers here essentially validate the importance of social proof. Now, social does more than just proof. It definitely impacts search. So all of those inbound marketing efforts that we were talking about, this is a key aspect of that, and it does a couple things. Google and others fundamentally measure some level of authority. So if I have a tremendous amount of high quality followers on Google Plus or Twitter, and I interact with a page or a brand, carries more weight than if I was just somebody who is just starting within social media. In addition to that, anything that's mentioned on something like Google Plus immediately enters the search index. That's huge. It used to be that somebody might show up in search after 8 to 12 weeks. Now, if I go on G Plus and post something, it's instantaneously available within search. Because social indicators are shown within SERPs, the search engine result pages, it influences click-through in the search engine result pages. And ultimately, this goes toward conversion rates and building brand advocacy. So Google Plus is something that, at least with a lot of industry people that I talk to, something that we felt was somewhat forced on us. And at first there wasn't a rhyme or reason why we should engage with it, but we all knew we had to. But Google has now made it very technically worthwhile to leverage. So immediately available in their index whenever you put something on G+, and then looking at social signals as far as actual ranking within search results. So it's something that you better get on Google Plus because it's going to help your brand. Different social channels have different characteristics, and if we go all the way back to when we talked about search engine optimization and the research prior to engaging in search engine optimization, this is key information that allows us to start to understand why and where we as a brand might want to be present. If we're looking to do B2B things, maybe LinkedIn is our best area to start to invest into. Again, each one of the channels have very different audiences. Some of this is evolving, but again, there are some core competencies within each network. Now, participating in social is more than just broadcasting. It's really important to listen, because it's all about a conversation. Going back to, again, the Clue Train Manifesto and the markets defining your product fundamentally. And the good part is there are a whole series of tools that allow us to tap into and listen to the market and to ultimately participate in it. Whether it's us hedging against risk of somebody saying something bad about our brand, or it's us collectively contributing in discussions around certain subject areas, this is a key part of engaging in social. The other day, as I was completing this presentation, I was at a Starbucks. I love Starbucks and work at them all the time. And I heard this conversation behind me. Two young individuals said, "Oh my God, this is the easiest job ever. I just browse the web all day and post pictures. I guess they call our group social media. You should totally get this job." And the interesting thing is that they were doing inbound marketing. So yes, there are social networks, but there are also all these other channels that we can distribute media that's relevant to our brand and potentially relevant to users within those channels. And so that actually is a very valid job. And to take things a step further, yes, it's a humorous example, but hey, we might end up working for them. So clout, although people have different opinions around the service, you can actually get a score of how influential you're viewed in the social media space. And so those people at Starbucks behind me might have awesome clout scores and might actually be quite influential. When we think about people working within different channels to help inbound marketing, we shouldn't limit ourselves to just Twitter, Facebook, and the usual suspects. We need to think more broadly, because the beauty is that each one of these channels, let's think about Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, all of these could be relevant to your brand and help people to find you. I think SoundCloud is a great example. If I'm doing a series of podcasts, maybe I should just start including them on SoundCloud. I might even create a playlist in Spotify for my brand. Pinterest is an excellent place to put different infographics and other assets. So we need to be findable across each one of these. And last but not least, YouTube is massive. It is the second largest search engine. You should think very strongly about doing things on YouTube with your brand if you can. So this is inspired by Search and Social, the definitive guide to real-time content marketing. I highly recommend that book. Excellent book that gives a whole overview of how people interact with content marketing. If we look at this, and this is going back to the monkey example, we realize that across the channels, we fundamentally only broadcast really to a handful of channels. So in this case, YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook. But what happens is that there are all these sources on the periphery where people are discussing our brand and our products and services, and those are very high quality inbound links. So for our particular brand, we might even want to go further and think about, does maybe TripAdvisor somehow impact our brand? Should we have a strategy around engaging and working with them? So it's more than just the core social channels that we're usually focused on. In our final section, we'll talk about marketing automation and lead qualification. As the worlds of marketing and technology have come closer together and marketing has realized the benefits of a lot of automation, marketing automation has sprung up. Fundamentally, that means that traditional marketing tasks, a lot of them can be scheduled and set up to be tracked in very specific automated ways. And there are a whole bunch of different tools, from things that are very simple to very, very complicated, but it's really automating things that maybe were traditionally direct mail related, and now we're doing them over email, etc. Multi-touch marketing is, and marketing like it, is very important due to the number of channels that have evolved. So if you think about your on your own website, through particular social channels, Facebook, Twitter, etc., to printed media, to telephone, really the brand and the efforts around it need to be coordinated over those channels. As you reach out to people across those channels, integrated marketing also becomes critical. So is the brand consistent across those channels? Is the message consistent across those channels? When somebody's on Twitter doing things with your brand, is it done in the same way that the campaigns on your .com are being carried out? Two other key elements tied into marketing automation have to do with permission marketing and open rate. Fundamentally, permission marketing is just opt in and opt out. And if you've received, we all receive tons of email, but there are always a couple newsletters that I actually read and I really enjoy and provide high value to me. And the beauty is those organizations know it, because not only is their open rate very high for me, meaning that they see that I open each one of those, but I've also opted into that marketing. It has enough value for me, it resonates with me as a consumer, that I've actively selected to receive it. Thinking about all of those marketing automation activities, they inevitably lead to, hopefully, some type of conversion, or at least an attempt at a conversion. And so as we think about that relationship and the conversion, we think about, how can we make sure that every time somebody's touching our brand, that their activities are giving us a sense of their intent to buy? Is this person, based on their pattern of behavior, maybe they downloaded the PDF white paper, then they went to a webinar. Each one of those things give us some indication of how serious that individual is. Now, in addition to that, it also gives us a great opportunity to start to change some of their experience with our brand to measure up much more in line with their own objectives. So is this as something as simple as changing the text within a button, or changing a call to action based on the fact that they just downloaded a white paper and just viewed a webinar? We now have the opportunity to leverage all of this to make their experience better and to give us higher conversion rates. So, I have a challenge for everybody. Go take a look at what your brand is currently doing online and across social, and think about the following. What key metrics are you tracking on your site today? And it's amazing. It's not bad. People didn't do anything wrong, but it's amazing how many organizations don't track key metrics. Yes, they have analytics, but they don't actively do anything with those analytics. Is anything missing that should be tracked? Is there some new initiative that our organization is doing that's critical to our company that could have a specific metric around it? And how are we tracking against that metric? And finally, if there's one change you could make to increase conversion, what would it be? It's amazing the amount of low-hanging fruit. And so as we think through these 3 questions, something might emerge that can make a tangible difference in the way that we're going to market with our digital capabilities. So key takeaways. Create relevant content. That's the way that you're going to get people on your site. It's not about tuning HTML or different types of templating or meta tags. It's about having a relevant experience for the people that you want to connect with. Now, when we start to measure that experience, we need meaningful measurement. Throw page views out the window. This is not vanity-based measurement. At the end of the day, everything that we're doing should arrive at some conversion. Even if the person only comments within our blog, or if they retweet something that we did, or if they sign up for a download, we should be focused around conversion. Whenever we're creating content and engaging with people, let's leverage the opportunity to segment where we can, because ultimately we're focused on that higher conversion rate, and this gives us a tremendous opportunity to do that. In order to help further that experience, can we do any sort of experiments that refine our approach to conversion? Let's go ahead and maybe try 2 types of calls to action. Let's change a banner image. Let's do what we can to understand what's resonating with the people that we want to connect with. When we're doing social is more than just Facebook. Let's think about where the conversations with our brand are happening. Are they happening in enthusiast communities? Are they happening within certain LinkedIn groups? Search engine optimization. It's not about what you say about yourself. It's what others are saying about you. That's the important part. And lastly, loyalty is something that if we have an existing customer base, we can develop and mature, and it pays. So I appreciate your time very much. My name's John Brunswick. I would love to connect with you guys, so please reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google+.